And this was, I guess, about 6, 7, 8 months ago. They announced their casting ideas. They were talking about people like Justin Timberlake. And
sorry to interrupt, but they actually gave it the green light.
yes, I know. I was going to work up to the present, but giving you a little history, they were casting it all with white actors. You know, it's post-apocalyptic. Well, if they want to change it, they should start with a clean slate. Have a whole new story. Why buy Akira and then change it completely, you know? And so there was a great wave of criticism and protest to that approach. Well, they retreated on that. And we thought that maybe we had communicated, that they learned something.
You were instrumental in
Right. Right. You use what we have available now, the technology, Twitter and Facebook and so forth. And so the word has spread like wildfire, and Warner Brothers retreated on that. We thought they had learned from that. But now it's come back again, and as you point out, they're still insisting on going the same route. Interestingly, Leonardo DiCaprio, who's a young person, you know, and he would think young, but he's behind the project as one of the 3 or 4 producers. So Hollywood makes some progress, grudgingly more often than not, and we take a few steps backwards. And I think the Akira project seems to be indicating that step backwards. So, you know, we have to keep on keeping on, keep on pressing, keep on pushing these antiquated ways of thinking. They have a right to do something different if that's their concept. But then don't publicize it as Akira. Why pay tons of money to buy the rights when they're going to change it anyway? It'd be much more economical to put that money into the production itself rather than buying something and then changing it. So I think the struggle continues. We've made some progress, but we also take a few steps backwards.
I think it's important to say, too, is that if you, as Asian Americans, and a lot of you are here in this audience, I think it's important to, if you want your story to be told, you have to write and tell your own story. And as you know, Jay is approving here on this panel, that you are going to be the most important person, you know, to tell your story. So don't let what's going on in you know, Hollywood sort of dictate to you, you know, the fact that what you have to offer is not valid or is not important, you know. So, and I think all of you sitting here in this Asian American conference is witness to the fact that, yes, you are here and you want your voice is heard, you know, and what you have to say counts.
If Allegiant succeeds and Jay has his way, there will be a whole slew of new Asian American role written for American theater.
So don't give up on all that, you know. Just
And the road company, and the Canadian company, and the London company.
So this is our last question, actually. So what is next for Allegiance, and when are we going to get to see it?
So we kind of gave a preview of a little bit of that, but just to sort of tell you a little bit of what's happening, we, you know, the process of building a Broadway musical is something that one doesn't necessarily imagine to be as long as it is, but Jay and I have been working on this project for now 2.5 years, and it's morphed and changed, and we've discovered what the show needed to be and wanted to be throughout each time that we got this cast together and discovered a new version for the show. And we just most recently worked with George and Paul and the rest of our cast this summer did a workshop presentation production of this, and that's what propelled us towards our world premiere, which will happen in San Diego next year. So we're all going back into this development process throughout the fall and the spring, and we'll look at what new exciting changes and further development will go into the show before we open for the first time in front of an audience next year in San Diego. And then from there on, it'll move to Broadway. In the meanwhile, we plan to keep all of our fans and all the people that are interested in this project really involved and part of this process. So Jay mentioned it. Our Facebook page, our Twitter stream, our website, allegiancemusical.com, has a lot of content both on the process of building the show, interviews with the cast, just kind of like an inside look on it.
It also has a lot of George's blog now, right?
It does. Also, George is keeping a blog.
That blog, I think it's called That Blog Is So Takei.
Yes. You can find it through his website or on the Allegiance website. And there's also one of the things that we're doing that is really part of what we want to do with this show. It is, as I said, an entertaining, a sort of wide appeal show for people to connect with, but there's a lot of responsibility that we feel in telling the story, and there's a lot of the story of the Japanese American internment that we simply could not and would not go into as far as the story of the musical goes. But there is a lot of that material and a lot of that information that we're going to make available and accessible through our website, and a lot of that sort of we hope that when people come and see the show, they will be inspired and become curious about learning more about what happened to Japanese Americans during what George described as the most egregious violation of our American Constitution.
And to that end, we're going to be having a program, I think beginning next year, called the Ambassador Program, which every fan can participate in. The more involved you become with the show and the more you learn about it, the more you tell your friends about it, the more points you'll score on our Ambassador Program, and you can win tickets and backstage passes and all kinds of stuff. So for the young people, that's really great because the ticket prices can be kind of high, but you can earn your way to tickets to New York and backstage with George and Leia and all of those things if you could become an Allegiance ambassador. So look for that program on our website.
So just go on the website if you're curious, and you'll find a way to sign up.
Today is Veterans Day, and there is another remarkable aspect to the internment. It's an amazing story. We were incarcerated because we were seen as an enemy. They called us enemy non-aliens. What is a non-alien? That's a citizen. They couldn't even call us citizens. They called us non-aliens. And yet, after a year in internment, the government realized that there was a wartime manpower shortage in the military. And so as suddenly as they picked us up, rounded us up, they opened up the United States Army for service by Japanese Americans. And the amazing thing is, thousands of young Japanese American men and women went from behind those barbed wires, put on the same uniform as that of the sentries that guarded over us, to serve in the U.S. Army. The women served in the WACS, the Women's Army Corps, and the men were put into a segregated unit, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. They went from behind imprisonment in American concentration camps to fight for this country, leaving their families behind those barbed wire fences. They were sent to Europe, and they fought with amazing, incredible courage and bravery on those bloody European battlefields. Many, many thousands of Japanese Americans perished on those battlefields. And they came back from the war as the most decorated unit of its size in the entire Second World War. They were greeted back to the United States on the White House lawn by President Harry Truman, who said to them, "You fought not only the enemy, but prejudice, and you won." In 2004, I made a pilgrimage back to the camp that we were imprisoned in Arkansas. Everything that I remembered about the camp had disappeared. The swamp had been drained, the forest had been chopped down, and it was miles and miles of cotton fields. The only evidence of an internment camp there was the cemetery. And the most prominent marker in that cemetery was a memorial to those young men who went from Camp Rower in southeast Arkansas to fight for this country and perished. I stood there by that memorial, and I felt so grateful to them and so humbled, and the poignance of the situation was so much that I lost it. Tears just flowed down my cheeks. It's an amazing story of Americanism, of patriotism, and belief in the fundamental ideals of this system. And it's to those remarkable young men, both the young men who died, as well as those that came back, some crippled, that made my America today, for me to be functioning as an actor, enjoying some success, that I owe to those amazing people. I know the price that was paid for my American citizenship, and that's what drives me to be as good a citizen as I can be. These are steps forward, and the sacrifices made by those amazing people is what makes this country the wonderful, beautiful country that it is. Good morning.